PANACEA has documented records of our organisation making governments aware of this technology since as far back as 2007. From this lack of response, we must realise that it is not just the Australian government, but the very system which has failed to bring this technology and keep it secure in public hands. The discovery is new to governments and faculties, but has been around since the 1950s. It is not in their textbooks, and they are not willing to investigate further even after a no-obligation free situation offered by PANACEA. We must create security from faculty ignorance, or ignorance from any individual who is not qualified to make the decision, yet has the authority to prevent further investigation and thus public access. We have to police this and ensure the prevention of any suppression of this clean and cheap technology from any bureaucratic influence, because it could threaten their contracts, which would be far more financially lucrative than using this clean, non-chemical weather engineering process. PANACEA has heard nothing back from the government since November of 2009, even earlier in 2007. We have offered our proposed granted non-profit research and development centre to hold the technology in a public trust and to operate it on a grant basis only, and would never sell it out to any entrepreneur. PANACEA can also help train faculties. Can you help? Please contact PANACEA if you are able to assist. The historic success of this weather engineering work has only been made possible by gentlemen, as Trevor puts it. The following is a brief review of participants in and their contributions to etheric rain engineering since 1968. Ever since Trevor Constable began his involvement with etheric rain engineering technology around 1968, many people have aided and reinforced this development. Without their contributions, which have been as varied as the people themselves, the elegant airborne etheric rain engineering operations of today would have required many more years to realise. At key junctures, development may well have ceased, where if not for interventions by interested, capable, and kindly disposed people. Certain of these interventions, such as those of George K.C. Wu, the Segretti brothers, Irwin Trent, and Dr. James O. Woods, decisively kept this project going when Trevor had resolved to close it down, out of sheer weariness with the expense and strain of large regional operations. No support of any kind is extended to work of this character by the great foundations with their tax-sheltered funds. They tend to sustain conventional, thoroughly safe ventures rather than assist technical revolutions. Corporation keynoted all of the assisting services that were freely given. No government research money was ever used or expected. Many of the individuals involved made substantial sacrifices of time, funds, and skill. Scientists and other professionals contributed their knowledge and insight unstintingly and without fees. Whatever the level of their involvement and conviction, everyone could see one overriding goal. Human life would be elevated and advanced by the furtherance of etheric rain engineering. Most of those who helped also saw that beyond the break-in development of etheric rain engineering, there loomed the wider industrial developments of etheric technology, requiring no fuel and producing no pollution. This wider horizon fascinated and enthralled everyone involved. They all realize that we have to begin where we can, rather than dream idly of a perfect beginning. Those who shared our visions and have passed on are remembered with reverence and abiding gratitude. Motivations have been pure throughout. Cooperation by free human beings is the most powerful force there is for progress, crossing national, racial, and political boundaries, destined in the fullness of time to supplant the profit motive for advancing the human race. Cooperation is needed even now on a world stage to salvage this stricken planet from the ravages of unbridled avarice and disdain for nature. Grateful acknowledgement is extended to the following persons for their contributions to progress. Not all of them were personally or directly involved in the particular activities, but whether centrally or peripherally involved, all of them together helped produce the airborne etheric rain engineering of today. Evident and obvious is that these are human beings of high quality. George K.C. Wu of Singapore, a visionary businessman, multimillionaire and entrepreneur who made possible the commercial availability of the airborne etheric rain engineering operations. Peter Lindemann is a great friend to etheric rain engineering, as well as possessing a remarkable level of personal sensitivity to etheric force. Peter is a brilliant multidisciplinary engineer who has created many devices ranging from therapeutic equipment to electrical generators. Louis A. Matter served as chief engineer of the SS Maui throughout the 1980s and until his retirement from sea in 1992. A professional engineer educated at the California Maritime Academy. Lou Matter's early personal interests were sacred geometry and the art of Tai Chi. The late Dr. Wilhelm Reich, who died in a federal prison in 1957. He was the major rain engineering pioneer and innovator with his inspired invention of the cloudbuster. The late biologist Robert McCulloch. He was the link between Dr. Reich's work and that of Trevor's. Bob was educated at the Utah State Agricultural College, where he earned a master's degree. Eva Reich, M.D., physician and daughter of the great Wilhelm Reich scientist. She was a professional associate of Robert McCulloch and her father at Organon in Maine. The late Dr. James O. Woods, a highly valued research associate of Trevor's for more than a quarter of a century. The late and magnificent Erwin Trent was a veteran electronics technician already retired from the aerospace industry in California when he met Trevor in 1971. Mr. Trent's first acquaintance with Dr. Rice's work came as a patient of Dr. Albert Duval, one of Rice's closest medical associates. Trevor and Erwin Trent became the dearest of friends as well as research associates for 30 years. The late William Gordon Allen, Ph.D., was a graduate of Louisiana Tech who was long associated with Boeing in Seattle. Dr. Allen headed the interior electronics design group on the Boeing 747 during the birth of the revolutionary jumbo jet. The late Frank de Ewan was an internationally respected aeronautical engineer, airline executive, and consultant who was intensely interested in etheric weather engineering as a glimpse of tomorrow. He was a personal friend and business associate of Trevor since the mid-1950s and an ever-present source of wise counsel and engineering guidance. Commodore Kenneth R. Alcott was a Commodore of the Matson Navigation Company's fleet and master of their flagship, the SS Maui. Throughout the major development of etheric rain engineering in the maritime mobile mode, his authorization of rain engineering equipment on the flying bridge of the Madison flagship was a considerable concession for a man in his position to make. This key privilege made possible a succession of advances in the art that would otherwise have required generations to achieve. Colonel William A. Shower, United States Air Force, retired, is the first pilot in the history of the world to fly airborne etheric rain engineering operations. He put in 31 years of service with the United States Air Force as a fighter pilot, and after retirement built a second career in general aviation in Hawaii, an elegant pilot and longtime president of the former Aviation Historical Society of Hawaii. Willie Shower donated many professional hours to educating young Hawaiians on aviation. The Segretti brothers, Gino and Anthony, helped support and sustain the rugged pioneer years of etheric rain engineering from Fort Zindanoo, Gino's home on the Mojave Desert 10 miles from Palm Springs, California. Gino's first contact with etheric rain engineering was as a curious quartermaster aboard the SS Maui, where rain engineering experiments were frequently carried out. Commodore C.C. Wright Jr. was the senior master of the Madison Navigation Company and in command of the SS Maui, the Madison flagship, when Trevor joined the ship on her maiden voyage in 1978. Intelligent, open-minded, and a consummate gentleman, this former skipper of the Madison passenger liners readily assented to trials of novel rain engineering equipment on the ship. The late General Curtis E. Lemay rendered unique personal assistance to Operation Clincher in Southern California in 1990. Full details of this historic seasonal victory over America's worst smog appear on the Rain Engineering website. Operation Clincher was the most successful etheric rain engineering operation ever conducted, but it would not have attained this status without the intervention of General Lemay. The late Howard B. Spud Moreau, one of the founders of the Moreau's Nut House national retail chain, was the first man ever to mention to Trevor the notion about the weather could be controlled and rain engineered. Captain Edo Fayan, United States Merchant Marine, retired. Captain Edo was for several years a Trevor James Constable shipmate as Chief Officer of the SS Maui. This professional seafarer had been observing and reporting marine weather daily for decades. Edo was an extremely acute observer with unblocked perceptions. He was astonished at some of the monstrous rain accretions that were engineered into existence virtually while he watched, despite a full array of rain-negating parameters. Ben Gregory, who will be referred to herein simply as Greg, was an ex-US Army soldier on disability who resided across the street from Fort Zindanoo, Desert Hot Springs, California, Trevor's longtime desert base. Greg was intrigued by the bizarre goings-on at the fort. Greg then made Trevor's acquaintance and rapidly developed a consuming interest in weather engineering. Greg brought with him a stunning innate aptitude for working with etheric rain engineering equipment, which Trevor was quick to recognize and develop.